It began with candlelight and silence. Dozens gathered beneath the swaying oaks of Fairview Park, their faces lit by flickering flames and streaked with tears. At the center of the circle, two framed photographs rested on white easels. Mary Williams and Jamal Harris, once the heartbeat of Fairview High School, now remembered in sorrow. Children clutched teddy bears. Parents clung to each other. And in the hush, someone whispered the question on everyone's mind. How did it come to this? They were high school sweethearts. They built a life together. And they died on the very night meant to celebrate it all. It was supposed to be a reunion filled with laughter, stories, and the warmth of nostalgia. The 10-year Fairview High reunion had been planned for months, an elegant gathering held in the newly renovated gymnasium, complete with string lights, a live DJ, and photo booths adorned with decade-old memories. Guests arrived in waves. Former cheerleaders hugged their old teammates. Class clowns exchanged jokes with now-suited accountants. Teachers mingled awkwardly at the punch table. Everyone was older, but for one night, they weren't. Then came Mary and Jamal, the couple everyone wanted to be. She had blossomed into a poised, graceful event planner in Atlanta. He had built a thriving architecture firm and returned home with their 2 kids to be closer to family. Together, they were a picture of success, of happiness, and of love that had survived the real world. As they entered, the crowd erupted. Friends cheered. Former rivals gave reluctant nods. Even those who had once envied them couldn't help but smile. Jamal gave a short, heartfelt toast about dreams, memories, and how proud he was to be back where it all began. But what no one noticed, in that moment of joy, was the man standing quietly in the far corner of the gym. Alone, unsmiling, watching. High school had its stars and its shadows. As preparations for the reunion had ramped up weeks earlier, there had been no warning. No threats. No enemies known. If anything, this was a celebration long overdue. But at 11:42 p.m., just as the music shifted to an old favorite slow dance, Mary collapsed. A gasp rippled through the gym. Jamal rushed to her side, frantic, begging someone to call 911. Moments later, he too stumbled, clutching his chest. Screams echoed. The music stopped. A spilled wine bottle rolled across the floor. By the time paramedics arrived, it was too late. They were both gone. Now, weeks later, the town of Fairview is a shadow of its former self. Rumors swirl. Some say it was a tragic coincidence. Others speak of poison, of revenge. And some, quietly, fearfully, suggest something darker. But what no one expected was that 2 of them wouldn't make it to the next morning. They were the kind of couple everyone remembered and everyone admired. Jamal and Mary weren't just high school sweethearts. They were the golden couple of Fairview High, crowned prom king and queen in their senior year, pictured in nearly every yearbook page together, and voted most likely to succeed. And succeed they did. After high school, Mary earned a degree in event planning and built her own luxury wedding coordination business. Jamal, ever the dreamer, became an award-winning architect, known for revitalizing struggling neighborhoods. They married young, built a life together in Atlanta, and returned to their hometown with 2 beautiful children, the picture of a love story gone right. Their return for the 10-year high school reunion was a homecoming event in itself. The gymnasium, where they'd first met during freshman orientation, had been transformed for the reunion. Twinkling lights hung from basketball hoops, old photos were pinned to memory boards, and a slideshow of the class of 2013 flickered across a projector screen. About 60 people showed up, classmates, a few former teachers, even the old janitor Mr. Coleman, now retired. The night was lighthearted and warm, filled with dance floor laughter, hugs that lasted too long, and inside jokes that only made sense to those who lived them. Mary wore a deep green dress that shimmered under the lights. Jamal, always sharp, wore a dark suit with no tie, just enough elegance to say he hadn't changed too much. They danced to their old song, toasted with sparkling cider for those who didn't drink, and posed for photo booth snaps with friends from every clique. Then came the shift. At approximately 11:42 p.m., as the DJ was transitioning to a slow number, Mary was seen walking toward the punch table. She paused, sipped from a cup, smiled at a classmate, and suddenly stumbled. Witnesses say she clutched her stomach, collapsed against the table, and began gasping for air. The room froze. Jamal ran toward her, yelling for someone to call 911. He knelt beside her, tried to steady her trembling hands. Then, without warning, his body jerked violently, and he collapsed too. Two bodies, on the gym floor. One choking, the other convulsing. Panic erupted. Some guests thought it was an allergic reaction. Others whispered of drugs. Someone fainted. Others tried CPR, though no one knew exactly what was happening. By the time emergency responders arrived, both Mary and Jamal were unresponsive, pronounced dead within the hour. The town was in shock. No one could make sense of it. How could two seemingly healthy people, on the happiest night of their year, suddenly drop dead within minutes of each other? Initial speculation focused on food poisoning. Others guessed a bad batch of alcohol or a mix-up with medication. But then came the autopsy reports, quietly leaked by a hospital staff member and later confirmed by the coroner. Both Mary and Jamal had been poisoned. Not an accidental overdose. Not spoiled food. Not natural causes. Poison, precise, intentional, and fatal. The chilling detail? The toxins in their system were identical. They died the same way, on the same night, surrounded by nearly 60 witnesses. And yet, no one saw a thing. No spilled drink. No strange behavior. No one suspicious near the cups or food. Nothing. Detectives began to suspect that the poison wasn't administered randomly. It was targeted. But how? And why? And more importantly, who would do this? The perfect couple was gone. But in the shadows of that joyful reunion, something far from perfect had been watching and waiting. The town of Fairview had never seen anything like it. 2 deaths in one night, and not just any 2 people. Mary and Jamal were local royalty, and the tragedy was beginning to feel less like an accident and more like a message. Within hours, detectives cordoned off the gymnasium, turning it from a place of celebration into a crime scene. Balloons sagged beside evidence markers. The same punch bowl people laughed around was now a key exhibit, and every guest who had attended was now a potential suspect. Police launched into interviews with everyone who had been present that night, starting with Mary and Jamal's closest friends. That's when the first strange detail emerged. Mary, according to her best friend Cassidy, had received an anonymous note earlier that evening. It was slipped into her purse during the party, folded once, no signature. Just 5 words, scrawled in quick ink. He never really loved you. Cassidy said Mary didn't want to cause a scene and brushed it off. But she also admitted Mary seemed different after reading it. Distracted. Quiet. She no longer laughed as freely, and she stopped dancing altogether. On Jamal's side, things were no less puzzling. Several classmates recalled that he had seemed tense for most of the evening. He was checking his phone constantly, stepping out of the gym more than once to take calls. One friend, Brian, said he noticed Jamal arguing with someone near the exit just after 10:30 p.m., about an hour before the poisoning. That someone turned out to be Kyle Maddox, Mary's ex-boyfriend from sophomore year. Kyle was still living in Fairview, working at his uncle's auto shop. Everyone knew he and Mary had history. They dated for a year back in high school, and though it ended before senior prom, there were rumors he never really got over her. Witnesses confirmed that Kyle and Jamal had exchanged harsh words near the gym entrance. Some claimed they even had to be pulled apart. When questioned by police, Kyle admitted they spoke, but insisted it was a misunderstanding. He said he only came to offer congratulations, but Jamal overreacted. Suspicion started to grow. Then came Tina Barnes, the reunion event planner. She had taken on the job voluntarily, a way, she said, to give back. But beneath her cheerful Instagram posts and party planning smiles, there was a history. Just 1 month before the reunion, Tina and Mary had a public falling out on Facebook. Screenshots surfaced of Mary accusing Tina of stealing her business idea years ago, and Tina firing back that Mary was two-faced and a high school queen who never grew up. Tina had every reason to hold a grudge, or so it seemed. Detectives brought her in for questioning. She denied any involvement and claimed the feud was just drama, long buried. Still, it raised eyebrows. As police sifted through statements and security footage, inconsistencies began to emerge. There were gaps, moments no one could account for. Not everyone had signed the RSVP list. In fact, the guest count didn't add up. One person had been at the reunion, who hadn't officially RSVP'd. A classmate named Delia spoke up. I saw someone that night. At first, I thought they were with someone else, maybe a +1. But now that I think about it, they kept to themselves. Didn't talk much. Wore a hoodie. I remember thinking it was odd for a reunion. But we were all so caught up. I didn't question it. Security footage confirmed her suspicion. A figure in a dark hoodie had entered the gym through the side entrance just before 9 p.m. and left through the same door 10 minutes after Mary and Jamal collapsed. The footage was grainy. No clear face. No ID. No ticket. This wasn't someone reminiscing over yearbooks. This was someone who had come with a purpose. And with Mary and Jamal gone, the purpose now felt chillingly clear. The investigation took a darker turn just as leads began to dry up. Toxicology reports confirmed what many feared. Mary and Jamal were poisoned. But this wasn't from the punch or food served at the reunion. The source was far more intimate and far more deliberate. Investigators discovered a half-empty bottle of red wine in the hotel suite where Mary and Jamal had stayed that night. The label was handwritten, rustic, and untraceable. But inside, tests revealed traces of a rare neurotoxin, nearly impossible to detect without forensic-level scrutiny. A poison designed to shut down the nervous system, slow and painful, yet subtle enough to go unnoticed until it was too late. There was no card, no note. But the hotel clerk remembered something odd. The bottle had already been in the room before Mary and Jamal checked in. How did it get there? Police pulled security footage from the rear loading dock of the reunion venue, hoping to find clues. And then, just past 4 p.m., the camera caught something. A figure in a dark hoodie slipping through the back door with a black duffel bag. No face, no badge, no guest tag. They moved quickly, deliberately, avoiding the main halls and heading straight toward the staging rooms near the gym. Whoever they were, they knew the layout. The footage was played for reunion guests. Most shook their heads, no idea. But one woman, a former classmate named Rachel Lynn, stiffened as she watched the figure walk. "Wait, go back," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "That walk, that tilt to the right leg. I know it sounds crazy, but that looked like Martin Jobs." The name sent ripples through the room. Martin Jobs, a name not spoken in years. Martin had been Jamal's best friend in high school, inseparable, the kind of duo everyone thought would stay close for life. But Martin had always been different. Smart, shy, a little too quiet. He kept to himself, rarely smiled in photos, and was known for nursing a long, unspoken crush on Mary since sophomore year. Most people assumed Martin moved away after graduation. He didn't attend college with the others. No social media. No wedding photos. Just gone. Until now. Investigators scrambled to locate Martin. They searched DMV records, old classmates, even local hospitals. Finally, they tracked down a last known address linked to his name. A rundown rental house on the outskirts of Fairview. No utilities. No neighbors had seen anyone come or go in months. They broke the lock and stepped inside. The air was thick with dust and silence. Empty pizza boxes. Piles of newspapers. But on one wall, illuminated only by a flickering candle, was something that made even the seasoned detectives pause. A shrine. Clippings of Mary and Jamal's life covered nearly every inch. Wedding photos torn from local magazines. Newsletters about Jamal's real estate firm. A printout of Mary's LinkedIn page. School photos. Baby announcements. Some were circled in red. Others had notes scribbled over them. At the center of the wall sat a framed photo of the three of them from senior year. Martin, Jamal, and Mary, smiling at prom. Except in this version, Martin's side had been cut out, his figure replaced with a mirror shard, reflecting the candlelight. It was clear Martin had never moved on. Whatever pain he had buried in high school had grown into something else, something obsessive, dangerous, and calculating. But where was he now? The house was empty. No phone, no computer, no records. Yet taped to the wall, just below the shrine, was a map, with a red line leading from Fairview to another small town 2 hours away. A town called Norris Creek. The police wasted no time. A bolo, be on the lookout, was issued statewide for Martin Jobs, now the prime suspect in the double homicide that had rocked the town of Fairview. His face, once just a forgotten yearbook photo, was now plastered across news stations, crime bulletins, and online forums. But still, no trace. Meanwhile, Lena Hartwell, a former classmate of Martin's and now a true crime blogger with a small but loyal following, felt the case hit a little too close to home. She'd known Martin. or thought she had. Digging into old digital archives and defunct student blogs, Lena stumbled on something chilling. A forgotten webpage from an early blogging platform that hadn't been updated since 2012. The page was crude and anonymous, but something about the writing style, the tone, it screamed Martin. One post stood out. I loved her. I was first. He stole her. I told him I trusted him. He laughed. They laughed. I faded. But I remember. It was posted the same week Jamal and Mary had gone public with their relationship during senior year. Suddenly, everything clicked. Flashback to high school. Martin and Jamal were close, best friends, always side by side. But what no one else knew was the conversation they'd shared one rainy afternoon in the band room. Martin had nervously confessed to Jamal that he had feelings for Mary. Deep, lasting feelings. He begged Jamal not to say anything, too scared to tell her himself. And Jamal had nodded, promised to keep it between them. But weeks later, Jamal and Mary were officially dating, walking the halls hand in hand, their names scribbled together in lockers, voted most likely to get married by senior year. To the rest of the class, it was a high school love story. But to Martin, it wasn't just heartbreak, the narrator says. It was betrayal, a knife in the back, by the only friend he ever had. Back in the present day, Lena's blog post detailing Martin's entry went viral. Hundreds shared it. One reader, a local hiker from Norris Creek, reached out with a tip that changed everything. I saw that guy a few months ago. He was living up in the woods, near Fire Hollow Ridge. Looked off, kept to himself, wore a hoodie even in the heat. Police mobilized. Norris Creek was a remote town tucked between dense forest and winding mountain roads. The area around Fire Hollow Ridge was largely uninhabited, miles of rocky terrain, old hunting cabins, and poor cell service. They found the cabin just after dawn. It was small, built from rotting timber, covered in moss and vines. No address. No mailbox. The door was chained shut from the inside. Officers knocked. No answer. They circled the cabin and peered through a cracked window. Inside, the space was filled with clutter, stacks of canned food, maps, a broken-down laptop, and pinned to one wall, a replica of the shrine found at his previous home. But this time, the images weren't just of Mary and Jamal. There were recent surveillance photos of the reunion setup, of Mary outside the venue, Jamal in the parking lot, even one of their children at school. Who had taken these? Was Martin watching them for weeks before the murder? As officers forced entry, they discovered a small hidden compartment beneath the floorboards. Inside, burner phones, syringes, vials of unidentified liquid, and a journal, each page documenting what Martin called the reckoning. Detectives continued searching the cabin. Hidden beneath a loose floorboard, they found a small black case. Inside were 3 glass vials, the same rare chemical compound found in Mary and Jamal's autopsy. Next to it, a collection of burner phones. Phone records revealed that one of the numbers had been used to send fraudulent reunion invitations, separate from the official ones sent by the planning committee. Some classmates even confirmed receiving both versions, but hadn't thought much of it. The killer had infiltrated the reunion with fake invites, ensuring he'd be welcomed, unnoticed. As for the wine bottle, forensics confirmed Martin's fingerprints on the neck and cork. Martin was gone, but his trail had reappeared, more obsessive, more disturbing, and more deliberate than anyone could have imagined. The manhunt ended not with a gunfight or a dramatic chase, but with silence. Inside the cabin nestled deep in the woods outside Norris Creek, police finally found him. Martin Jobs. He didn't resist. When officers burst through the door, guns drawn and shouting commands, Martin simply raised his hands, a half-smile playing on his face like he'd been expecting them all along. Inside, the scene was every bit as disturbing as the first cabin, but even more obsessive. The walls were papered with snapshots from high school, prom photos, class schedules, student projects. There were printed social media posts of Mary and Jamal's wedding, their first child's birth announcement, Jamal's work awards, and even a recent photo of their family Christmas card. The entire cabin was a shrine and a timeline, documenting Mary and Jamal's life, year by year, as if Martin had never let go of senior year at all. On a corkboard, police found mock-up diagrams of the reunion hall. Next to them, handwritten notes analyzing where Mary and Jamal would stand, what drinks they were likely to have, and how much poison it would take to be undetectable in a bottle of wine. Martin was placed in cuffs. As they let him out, he didn't say a word. His eyes stared past the officers, fixed on the treetops, calm, almost at peace. At the Fairview police station, the interrogation room was quiet. A single light overhead. The hum of a recording device. Martin sat across from Detective Carla Hayes, his wrists cuffed to the table. She slid a file across to him, photos of Mary and Jamal at the reunion, and their autopsy reports. Still, Martin didn't flinch. "I didn't kill them out of hate," he finally said, voice low, steady. "I killed them because they didn't deserve what they stole." Detective Hayes leaned in. "What exactly did they steal, Martin?" His eyes flicked to the photos again. "My chance. My one chance at being seen. At being loved. I told Jamal about Mary. I trusted him. And he used it. Turned it into his fairy tale. While I disappeared." He described how over the years, he watched their perfect life unfold from afar. Birthdays, anniversaries, vacations. "It was like watching my own funeral," he said. But the final trigger, he claimed, wasn't Jamal. It was Mary. Martin claimed that just a few months before the reunion, Mary had messaged him on an old email address, one she probably didn't know he still monitored. It was a simple message, a class reunion invite, likely auto-generated. But to Martin, it felt like a door opening again. "She reached out," he whispered. "She invited me back in after all this time." That was the sign. The courtroom was packed. Reporters lined the back wall. Sketch artists captured every angle, and members of the Fairview community filled the gallery, some standing when seats ran out. The murder of Mary and Jamal had already shattered the peace of a small town. Now, it was about to become one of the most watched trials in the country. Martin Jobs stood emotionless, flanked by two public defenders. Gone was the man trembling in high school yearbook photos. In his place stood a figure hardened by obsession and twisted by time. He faced 2 counts of premeditated murder, tampering with evidence, and attempted fraud related to his use of burner phones and forged reunion invitations. The prosecution opened with a brutal timeline. Martin had tracked the couple for years. He'd created fake emails and stolen identities to gain access to the reunion. He'd snuck into the venue hours early and placed the poisoned wine in the couple's suite. Martin's legal team argued diminished capacity, claiming that his years of isolation and untreated psychological trauma warped his reality. They painted him as a product of loneliness, emotional rejection, and mental decay. But the evidence was overwhelming. The planning was meticulous. The motive, though warped, was clear. And the physical evidence, fingerprints, vials, burner phones, spoke volumes. What truly crushed any sympathy came during the final week of testimony, when the prosecution revealed pages from Martin's personal journal. One passage, written just weeks before the reunion, read, "They think they won, that they built a life on stolen ground. But I'll be there when the curtain falls. And when the music stops, only I will be standing." It sent a chill through the courtroom. The case was adjourned. On the final day of sentencing, the courtroom fell into a hush as Mary's parents took the stand. Her mother, holding a framed photo of Mary and Jamal on their wedding day, trembled as she spoke. "He waited 10 years to destroy what we built. He didn't just take away our daughter and son-in-law. He tore through the lives of our grandchildren. He ripped a hole in this town." Then her father, soft-spoken but steady, looked directly at Martin. "But your evil won't be your legacy. Their love will be. Their children will carry it. You'll be forgotten, buried beneath the love you tried to extinguish." Tears flowed freely in the gallery. After 6 hours of deliberation, the jury returned. Guilty on all counts. Martin Jobs was sentenced to death by hanging, and the courtroom was satisfied. Sometimes, love lost becomes poison. But justice, though slow, can still find its way through the darkest hearts.